My name is Dheeraj and I welcome you to another episode of Carrots and Stakes. Today with me, I have Suchet Shetty, who is trade marketing leader at Fratelli Wines. Welcome, Suchet. How are you doing?
Good, Dheeraj. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. How are you?
Good. All good and excited for this session.
Nice. Before we start, do tell me about carrots and stakes. What does that mean? What does stakes mean there?
Sure.
I've been curious ever since I've met you.
Sure.
Right.
So my founder is Manoj Agarwal, one visionary guy. So this was conceptualized by Manoj, I think back in 2022, right?
Yeah.
But now we got a chance to bring it in front of people, thanks to folks like you, right, who are kind enough to give your time, right?
Nice.
So that's where the
Cool
the
name,
whole-
carrots and stakes.
again
Like-
credit goes to Manoj and yeah.
Yeah. Makes you wonder, is there a story behind that too? Oh, stakes. What stakes? Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
So Chet, we'll start with your career journey, right? We know that you've been working with Fratelli Wines as a trade marketing leader, but before that, how has been your career? I see that you have worked in the alcobev industry with cigar, with wines, with liquor. So would love to know more about it.
Yeah. So, like any other, or not any other, but most of us in India, I have a pre-MBA and post-MBA life. Pre-MBA, which was an engineering life. I was a Java developer for like 3 years. Didn't quite feel like I'm able to reach my potential. Wanted something else from life, but didn't know what else. So, easy way out, go do an MBA. I did my MBA from MDI, Gurgaon, and got campus placed into Pernod Ricard. Pernod Ricard is this company which makes Absolute, Chivas, Glenlivet, Blenders Pride, these kind of products. I was a management trainee there. Worked in various roles in brand marketing, trade marketing, sales across various geographies. I was the management trainee there, exited as a trade marketing manager for Mumbai. Post this, I honestly, it was 5 years in Pernod, and I wanted to in that that trend even going on now. All my friends were entering startups, and I was like, okay, there is something that I'm missing out. There was this FOMO, and I was praying for it too. And I joined this startup called Multi-Living Technologies. This was a company into, how do I say this? Consumer services into residential real estate specifically. So like houses, right, where people live. It could be your own house or a rented apartment, but consumer services related to that. Painting, check up of the house, those kind of things. I got an opportunity to work or manage the brand marketing vertical there. 6 months, the company shut shop, and I realized I need to look for a job, and that brought me to Bangalore. I was working in Mumbai when I was working for that startup. I came to Bangalore to work for this company called John Distilleries, where I was managing the Paul John portfolio, Paul John in Singapore. Again, a very beautiful exposure into the brand marketing industry, especially in terms of the Indian single malls, the way it was developing then. This was around 2021, 2022. Approximately a year into that, we were with Paul John, we were doing a lot of interesting things in terms of pairing with various other categories. One such pairing was with cigars. This company, Cigar Connexion, where I was associating with them to do these cigar and single malt pairing events. While working so closely, I started romanticizing working with cigars more closely, and I ventured into managing sales and marketing for Cigar Connexion, which was quite a short stint for approximately 6 months, where I helped them open a lot of retail as well as hotel sales opportunities, mainly B2B opportunities. Post this stint, within Bangalore, I joined Bira. This was again a short stint for about 9 to 10 months, doing sales for the HoReCa channel for Bira in Bangalore. And approximately a year ago, I found the opportunity to join Fratelli as the head for trade marketing. And it's been, by the grace of God, the same role since past 1 year, where we have been very closely working, not just in establishing Fratelli as an important wine brand, but also trying to grow the wine industry. Yeah, that's been my journey so far.
Suchet, I think we should talk about Fratelli also, right? So,
Yes.
what's the backstory
course.
of the brand and what all
Yeah.
product categories that they are into within the wine?
So, this was in early 2006-2007 when the company was formed. Three families, okay. There were these Secchi brothers from Italy, Sekhri brothers from Delhi, Mohite Patil brothers from Maharashtra. These brothers came together, and that's what the word Fratelli, it means brotherhood in Italian. That's how the name was coined, and with the Italian winemaking, Indian business people, the Indian farmers, they came together. Fratelli as a company, when I talk about the vineyards, our main vineyards of around 300 acres are located in the southern part of Maharashtra. Some of it are owned by us. Good portion is contract farming as well, where we not just buy grapes from the farmers, we work with them, improve farming, we work through the sowing of the crops, growing them, harvesting, maintaining the crops, maintaining the quality of grapes, and then thereby bringing some really good products into the market. I mean, I have heard our winemakers say that we are farmers first and then winemakers, because we put in a good amount of effort in how we grow our crops as well. We have the main brand called Fratelli, which is the main trademark brand, ranging from around 800 to 1100 bucks, more or less, different price points across the country. Then we have these are all single varietals that we grow in our Aklush farm. This is in the southern part of Maharashtra, like I was telling you, near Sholapur. Other than that, we have a brand called Junoon, which we only make 16,000 bottles a year, not more than that. It's very rare. And again, I'm not the winemaker, right? So I can't tell you exactly which plot how, but there is a specific plot where you can grow the grapes to use for Junoon, and you can't even increase the yieldage, meaning the concentration of how many crops per acre, even that you can't increase. And there is a brand called Shetty, which was, we have a vintage of Shetty. It's a vintage wine. We have a vintage of Shetty even today from 2009. For a domestic, wine brand in India, that's a pretty big thing to say. And it's been a year since I've joined Fratelli, right? I've already tried Shetty 2009. Got a wonderful, beautiful wine. And then we have a product called Master Selection, which is one of the, at least in my eyes, one of the best wines I've had, at least at that price point, approximately 1,200 to 1,400, depending on which market you find it in. That is, that's about Fratelli. Mm-hmm.
What role does a trade marketing leader like you, play in the success of an alcoholic beverage brand?
When you talk about trade marketing, the main job is, make someone try it, induce the habit of constantly trying it, or in other way, paying by trying, meaning purchasing it, right? So that habit induction is very important. Now, when you put it to the alcobev segment, there is one, like in India especially, there is one big difference between any FMCG product versus alcobev is the regulation on advertising, right? India is a dark market. So now what that does, your main mass media, where your logo, your brand name will be featured, will have a surrogate, or else it won't be featured there. Now, when you talk about what your product actually is, your product is actually what it is, which is shown in the BTL channel, which for the trade marketing majorly manages Or say, even if the brand marketing would manage, it would still be the point of consumption. Meaning, say, an event. You have a concert going on, right? Brand collaboration, yes. But where will the product be? Otherwise, everywhere will be the logo, no? The product will be where people are drinking, even if via license within the concert, right? So ultimately, what happens with alcohol brands is the brand in terms of TOMA, like top of the mind awareness, is of course created by ATL activations, by the brand marketing activations. But actual brand, because what is brand? Brand is not just TOMA. Brand is also the trust in the product, right? If you think only what brand marketing would do, let me take one example of a brand. Okay, Old Monk, very very well revered brand, right?
My
Not
favorite.
many events that you see. Why is that? What is that reverence for? For the number of ads you saw? No. For the number of posters you saw in a bar? No. It is for number of people who swore by it. It's a brand trust, right? So that's where you go, oh, Old Monk, Royal Enfield. Why do you go? Because of that, right? So what I mean is, it's not just what is the input, it's also the output. And I believe the role of trade marketing, I would like to say that way, the role of trade marketing is that latter part of creating that trust. And that trust happens by what? Habit induction, right? Where you say, hey, this is my brand. This is what I drink every day. Or this is what I drink every month. Every time I meet my friends, this is the whiskey. This is the wine, right? That's what, like your question was, what role does trade marketing play in the success? This is the role that trade marketing plays in the success of a brand. Like it's the work of brand marketing to create the top of the mind awareness, but a brand is created also by the trust of getting it entrenched. Post which, even if you are not showing the ads, the brand will still sell, because there are the loyalists who are trying to propagate the brand, loyalists who are trying to speak about the brand. So, and there are so many examples in the Indian space of brands which have created that maybe the aspiration or need, which has caused them to stay so ingrained in the consumer's mind that the trust is what defines the brand, and not the number of ads and number of times you must have seen the brand.
See, it's more like embedding your brand into consumers' subconscious mind.
Correct.
And the recall value, right?
Correct.
Whenever people gather around with their friends and family, something that they recall, that is already embedded in their subconscious, maybe from their past experience or college times or their previous meeting, right? At a family gathering, right?
Correct. I agree.
This is where your brand, right, gets registered, and then it goes along with the customer. Right?
True. But to a certain extent, what you are saying, what the recall that you're talking about, of course, comes from the number of times you would see a brand around you. So, of course, it depends on how many times you see an ad, how many times whenever you go to a bar, you see a coaster, a tissue holder or an ashtray that carries the logo of a certain brand, a certain alcoholic beverage product, right? The recall, of course, is there. Like and of course, the jingles, right? We all at least the age that I'm assuming you and we both are. I mean, I know my age, I don't know yours, but ula la la uleo. We all know this tune, right? Because of a certain job done with Toma, where recall is there. Like, you think of the product whenever you think it's a jingle, say a logo, say a picture, or say a drink, right? Thumbs up and Old Monk. I don't know. I'm just sticking to Old Monk because the safest example out there. Like, no one says anything bad about Old Monk. So a safest example to use in any conversation is Old Monk. Old Monk, Royal Enfield, or maybe Harley Davidson. Safe brands to talk.
Brands, throughout the world. So, Suchet, one thing in specifically which is there in the alcohol industry, right? It becomes very difficult for a consumer to change their habit only on the basis of an advertisement, right?
Correct.
It's always
obviously
on the basis of recommendation by your friends and family or somebody you look up to, right?
Correct.
Or a personality you want to adapt to, right?
Correct.
And it doesn't change easily. I don't think at least for 10, 15 years or throughout the life, people just stick to, just like the football team or maybe your IPL team, people stick to that and continue to stay with it.
True. How does, I'm assuming you you would say, what do you do with people who won't shift? Okay, so people who won't shift, you can't do anything about it, but there are good theories there where many times people who won't shift are above a certain age, right? So it becomes easy to then look for the demography where okay, this age group, this will change. You were talking about habit, right? There are people who will not change. Then there are people who would change. But how will that change by looking at an ad? It won't change by looking at an ad. The job of the ad, when you think of the consumer journey, there is awareness, there is consideration, right? Then there is trial, then there is purchase. The trial is where you can change the habit, okay? Because awareness and consideration doesn't talk about habit anyway, right? The habit you want to induce is what? Have people buy.
Okay. Let's talk a bit about the whole alcohol industry in terms of numbers, right? How big is the industry? What's the size of industry in India?
So, there was this one article that I had read where I read that in 2024, the size of the industry was close to 55 to 56 billion US dollars. And apparently in 10 years, it was going to get doubled, I think, to 110 US billion dollars. Within this category, 70 to 75% would be just spirits, like majorly whiskeys and rums, vodka, gin and all. And then there would be approximately 20%, I think, which would be beer. Again, these numbers are, I've read various different figures and different articles and different reports. It depends on various sources of data that you get from the government agencies. Along with that, then there would be a lot of these RTDs, ready to drink beverages, which are like, say, a breezer, say other liqueurs, a lot of these products which do not fall into these specific spirit and all headers. And then, like I was discussing, other than that, there is the wine category. Wine would be approximately 2% of the overall category of alcoholic beverages in India. And within wines, I think the imported category would be 10%, and the domestic category, ingrown wines harvested and produced in India, would be approximately 90%. Within this, I mean, now I'm like going deep down into what I do. So within this, the company that I work for, Fratelli, holds approximately 30% of market share in terms of sale in India.
When you talk about wine, it's more of a urbanized, segment, right? It's not something which is talked more about in the tier 2 or maybe beyond that. It's more of a tier 1 and metro cities drink.
Fair point to make. The way I see this, it's not that wine is not consumed in tier 2, or rather, it's not even that volume wise the consumption is really low. But then you need to look at it from the premiumization point of view. Okay, you would see more port wines consumed in tier 2, tier 3 towns compared to say a metro. Of course, metros will still have good amount of port wines being sold, but that will also be dependent on the concentration of population in metros, right? The density of population in metro is anyway high, but when you remove that as a factor, you would see that in metros, what is also prominent is more expensive wines being sold. So from that point of view, you're right in saying that wines are definitely urbanized. In that when you think of a quality wine, when you think of a product that a wine connoisseur or someone who understands wines would respect more and more, that would be more focused on cities, more focused on metros.
What's a port wine? I mean, how it is different from the wine which is, more premium?
Port wine, primarily what it means is wine fortified with certain spirit. So you add some spirit to that. So that's how, that's the definition of fortified wine. Fortified wine, any fortified wine is not port wine. Port wine is a style of fortified wine. So a normal wine is the alcohol that the wine has is because of the fermentation, and that's it, right? There is nothing added additionally from outside. So port wine, you add some spirit or anything from outside.
Understood.
What it would do is, it would make it more potent. Hence, again, more value for money. You would get high quicker. Hence, more driven towards areas where value for money is more important.
So, in this case, you are dealing with the people who don't consume it on a regular basis. It is mostly associated with an occasion. As a marketer, then how do you place your brand, right? Obviously, here's a very important intersection of trade marketing and brand identity, right? In a place where you want to put yourself as one of the top choice for your consumer.
When you talk about this occasion, like for example, when I think of what I as a trade marketer want to do right now in this call also, Dheeraj told me that he's a whiskey drinker. Cool. So there are two things I can do, or at least aspire to do. First, easiest thing, he's a whiskey drinker. He's not going to drink wine. Let's not talk to Dheeraj. As Fratil. Second thing, I can spend money on Dheeraj. Let me convert him into a wine consumer. Both are wrong things to do. All I'm saying is, next time Dheeraj, you and I, let's go out for a steak. Somewhere in Bangalore. Yeah? Because we live in Bangalore. And let's have a nice bottle of wine. Idea is not to talk about how to convert people. Like, you're right. There aren't enough number of times that wine is being had. But the idea is not to talk about that. The idea is to talk about how many number of more times it can be had instead. And that's how I feel the intersection happens.
Understood, Suchet. So, I mean, now the important part is your distribution channel, right? This off-premise, on-premise, right? That plays an important role, right? So, how do you tailor those strategies?
The main difference is the scope for brand development, right? Because in on-premise, by design, what is an on-premise? A bar, a restaurant, right? A 5-star hotel. The restaurant or bar inside a 5-star hotel, that is. Say a nightclub. Say a cafe, which has, of course, the license to sell alcohol. When a consumer enters these places, it's not just with the intent of drinking. Along with that, parallelly, in these places, the arrival is also with the intent of spending some time. So the consumer is automatically in that experiential and experimental zone, right? Because if, like experiential wine, if they were not expecting some really good service, someone quickly running with eyes, quickly coming with glass, a good service, good experience, a good story, why am I drinking this, or why am I eating that, or why did I try this, what happened wrong with this, the whole experience, I would have been home, right? So experiential, very important. Experimental also, very important. If I didn't want to try something different, I was going to eat same what I had last night or have been having for a while, I would not have come out. So you're already outside your comfort zone, you're going to try different things. So brand development becomes not easier, or rather I should say, sampling becomes a lot more easier because A, I'm ready to try. B, I don't have to sell a bottle, no, even give free a bottle, right? I can be like, sir, a sample, why don't you try? Right, Dheeraj, why don't you try a sample, right? Ma'am, why don't you try a sample, right? So one big role of on-trade is experience, which in due process helps us in developing a brand. Off-trade, on the other hand, the focus is volume, right? depending on different states in India, you would see the contribution that the on-trade channel makes to the entire volume would range somewhere around 7 to 8% to 10% to maximum say 15 to 25. Again, 15 to 25%, not on paper. Like in a lot of regions, you would see on-trade channels like sell alcohol, but there is a lot of other than like through the same channel, but other than the right transfer format taken also. So when you look at the data, majorly off-trade channel is what brings the major volume, right? And on-trade is where you are able to create the experience. Now, one would think on-trade channel has a very low volume. Then how are we able to create the right impact for this big a volume of off-trade in on-trade? The reality is the consumption of a human being is also like that, where you would say drink a peg or two in on-trade. You would drink a lot more when you do home consumption, right? So inadvertently, that same consumption in on-trade translates to the parallel consumption / purchase and off-trade. When you think about the different strategies for these two channels now, like now that I have established what we do in which channel, right. The major difference is off-trade. We say there is something called as the last 3 feet of entering the shop is when you make the decision, and the last 6 seconds is when you make the decision of what you're going to buy. So in off-trade, the strategy revolves a lot around gifts with your product, okay, or having a promoter selling there, catching hold of someone asking for the exact competition and saying, try this, it's a good product. A lot of push in off-trade. The sale also in off-trade depends on what is the good mood of the consumer. Because like I said, last 6 seconds, right? You don't have a lot of time with the consumer. Versus in on-trade, there's a whole ecosystem of the wait staff there, the bartender, say a sommelier in case of some hotels or restaurants that have sommeliers. Or say really good cocktail bars having mixologists. There's a whole ecosystem that help people understand the experience and make a more experimental but informed decision. Versus off-trade, it'll be quick. So when it comes to strategy, off-trade, again, just like the agenda with off-trade, volume, all the strategies are also around that and around making quick decisions, because the consumer is also not going to spend a lot of time. But when it comes to on-trade, summarizing, the experience, the strategy, everything is around how to make sure that there is an elaborate experience to make them feel valued, but at the same time have a good memory. You will remember why I would want to again have that product. So that's the main difference. Other than that, discounting, both the cases. Giving gifts, both the cases. Making noise, again, both the cases. Even in off-trade, you would see a lot of visibility done in terms of having photo ops, running schemes like, okay, click a picture, post on Instagram, get some offer. You'd have these similar things in both the cases. But the main difference is, here the agenda is, or the focus is, how do I make the purchase very fast? Here we off-trade. And in on-trade, the focus is majorly how do I make sure that the consumer has a very memorable experience around my product and hence will remember my product. I mean, I hope I tried to differentiate that.
Yes, you did. So, in terms of getting the narrative out to your consumer, like we discussed, on-premises, off-premises. On-premises is basically the places where consumer themselves, off-premises is basically where consumer goes to buy in a wine shop. And they
retail, correct.
Yes, your retail environment, you said the 3-step thing, right?
Yeah,
they
the last 3 feet.
Yes, 3 feet, sorry.
LCF.
And they make a decision that they bring it to home, right? And then you have the on-premises on the other hand, where in a pub where your bartenders or somebody, there is a lot of environment that brands have built there in order to present themselves in front of the consumer, right? Now, let's talk about something more from a advertisement or maybe your promotion side of the things, right? In my last conversation, with Devika, we talked about this surrogate advertisement, right? Brands coming up with the cassettes and CDs, and most of the times these things were not even available in the market. Okay, so now what about social media, right? You are one of the most important channels where you have these influencers, right? Is this still under the regulation that the brand cannot do the advertisement with these influencers? How, or if it's permitted, how it is happening?
Coming to social media, the rules are now you can show bottle shots. You're allowed to talk about the product. You're allowed to promote to a certain extent. Of course, unlike FMCG, you can't sell online. Even in that case, in I think in West Bengal and in Odisha, they Swiggy sells. Like basically, it's available on quick commerce, and the laws around social media, especially, is majorly in terms of selling alcohol. You can't, but that also is defined by the excise policies itself, that you are not allowed to sell outside those particular premises that we were talking about. Outside that, like I said, West Bengal has it allows quick commerce sale of alcoholic beverages, but other than that, you don't see a lot of sale as such. But like I was saying,
but you see these influencer marketing campaigns on Instagram, a lot of for these influencers.
Correct. So that's honestly, even before this new changes in the law that you were talking about, and there were many friends who were talking about these slight amendments to these laws. Even before that, influencer marketing was allowed. Like me, as a person, I'm allowed to endorse a product, right? And on social media, it was pretty common that on social media, people were allowed. Like you and I, we were allowed to post a picture, right? So influencer marketing was prevalent even before this change of law. Okay, there was this insight. Okay, I was in this just an anecdote. I was in this wine shop in Mumbai. I won't name the wine shop. We are just there talking about Paul John. And anywhere I would go to any place, no, everyone's like swearing by the product. Oh, Paul John this, Paul John that. And now I'm talking about the market leaders in the Scotch category and everyone. I'm like just trying to understand why, if you like it so much, what stops from Paul John becoming that brand, right? So what is it? Like everyone should be taking Paul John. Then I realized what happens is everyone takes 1 or 2 bottles of Paul John, then some case or 6 bottles of whatever other brand, again, wine. So now I'm thinking why that happens, right? And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, maybe what happens is Neeraj, for example, loves Paul John. But the notion around Indian products has not changed much. Slowly that pride was starting, right? So in a party setup, he's still not sure if everything agrees with that thought of Indian pride. Psychology, basically. So there, Dheeraj would want to take a safer bet, a Scotch. So in a party, when there are 6 bottles or 12 bottles, it is that Scotch. So that would give more volume to that brand, right? So then I did this association with certain influencers where the segment was art of hosting. Okay. The idea was 3 elements required when you're hosting a party. One is a great ambience, okay, then great food, then third being great whiskey, which is Paul John. So the idea, like what I meant, content marketing plays a big role in also trying to define what your brand wants to stand for. Like, of course, great whiskey, great story, everything, but there is something missing. Maybe people are not associating with parties enough when you think of Paul John.
Now I can relate it with the habit induction, right?
Correct.
Just by associating it with hosting a party, right? As a host, you are actually feeling more entitled that yes, I have actually organized a good party, and this, and then there you can connect with the brand.
And as a host, it basically is telling you, hey, don't be worried. Use Paul John. It's a great whiskey, and It's the artistic or great party that you were supposed to throw, the best party. A lot of people love throwing good parties, right? And for them, it's an emotional thing that nothing should go wrong, or rather, nothing should be subpar. Like, I'm married to a person like that, so I know, those small details that they get into. So that what I was basically telling you is, it's not just from the point of view of having influencers with the intention of having the reach. It's also from the point of view of saying that this is what my story stands for. This is what my intention, this is what my insight is. And then I would want to create a content around that, because this is the takeaway I want the audience to also take away from, the hence not just influencer, but also content.
Thank you so much, for these many insights, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess with this, I want to really thank you, Suchet, for taking out time and joining me in this conversation.
Thank you, Dheeraj.
It was really great
This
having
was
you.
my first experience on making a podcast, or like being a guest on a podcast. Like, thank you so much for this experience. It's really beautiful. Made me feel really special when you invited me to your podcast. I've been excited and still excited during this conversation. Thank you so much for patiently listening. I mean, we spoke for a good while. I'm really glad that you were patient enough to listen to all my stories. Thank you so much for your time.